Okay, great. Right, Will, I know let's introduce for the sake of the blog again. Let's say introduce yourself, Will, about what you do.
So my name is William Wadsworth, and I run a blog and podcast by the name of Exam Study Expert. So the blog's at examstudyexpert.com and the podcast of the same name. And I'm a memory and learning psychologist, and I help students of all ages, school and university, and even beyond, study smarter, not harder, so they can ace their exams with less work and less stress. I do that in a range of ways. I work one-on-one with students, and I also help schools directly. So I'll be, you often see me in schools, kind of running workshops and talks, both for students and for teaching staff on the science of learning.
And you know, I know that, well, everyone can agree that the act of learning or the understanding of how you learn is often poorly represented at schools. And it's certainly in my experience, it was only through really self-awareness, that, you know, the journey of self-awareness, that you realize, that's it. And once you understand the trick, then, you know, you get your eye in, you're like, got it. Now I know what it takes. And it couldn't become more of a pressing time, because there are millions, literally millions of individuals who are having to retrain. And they don't need to go to university. They might go to college, but they might have to do a qualification. But what they will have to do is completely relearn, learn new things, and have them at recoil. So be able to recall them, whether you're in nursing, medicine, whether you're in veterinary, or whether you're in coding in particular. There's a certain sort of parameter of what you need to learn, and you need to be able to recall all the time. And we need to have the skills to do that. And maybe that people like you are very good at turbocharging individuals to learn. And I know you're going to tell us now about, again, you can tell us about how you do that. Take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's maybe 3 or 4 big pillars to that piece of how do you learn effectively. One of which you've mentioned already. That's the kind of nuts and bolts of what you actually do when you sit down and do some learning. Within that, active recall and spaced learning. So in a nutshell, active recall, or recall practice as it's often known in the science, that idea of pulling information out of memory, testing yourself on what you know, incredibly powerful way to build long-term memory, and spacing it out. So not just doing that once, but coming back to it, testing yourself on it again tomorrow, a few days time, next week. I think that is the central and most important pillar of the lot, but there are some underlying factors without which that's not going to work, and there's not much point in even talking about that. And I think some of those are particularly problematic at the moment. So I'm thinking about things like motivation and mindset and energy. And actually, when I'm kind of talking to the students I talk to day to day at the moment in the kind of world of virtual school, the biggest thing I hear over and over again is I'm not motivated, or I don't have the energy. So sometimes there's kind of some of those hygiene factors we need to kind of find a fix to first before they've even got the motivation to sit down at their desk and do anything. So those that in a nutshell is the kind of I feel the big pieces of the big piece of the puzzle.
What do you think if you were like just a handful of advice, 2 or 3 lines, what would it be if you were, say, at the beginning of an A level, for example? So 2 years, you got 3-4 subjects. What would be the kicker of the piece of advice you would give someone when starting on that journey?
So a lot of what I talk about is sort of, I guess, revision technique in the run up to exams, because that's often when I meet a student. My answer to that question, so you're right at the start of your A-level journey, the answer for that every time would be a technique I've developed called memory journaling. So we've just been saying that how helpful it is to pull knowledge out of your memory, to test yourself on what you know, to kind of extract that knowledge from memory, bring it into to sort of short-term memory, working memory, and that act in and of itself being super, super helpful for kind of locking that information away in memory for a long, long time. So you might hear you might hear advice to kind of I've heard teachers say this, look over your, make a daily habit of sort of looking over your notes that you've done from things you've done that day. So I'd go a step further and say, make a daily habit of memory journaling, just journaling about what you can remember learning about that day. So you're taking A-levels, you're taking 3 or 4 subjects. Start by just writing down what those subjects were as kind of subheadings. on a page in a, it's nice. It's quite nice to get a real book, like a nice physical book, to do this in a little journal or diary or something. Start by writing down the subheadings, the subjects you had that day, and then under each subheading, just try and remember some of the key things that came up in that lesson, whether it's kind of key concepts, new bits of vocabulary, a new kind of grammar concept in languages, maybe a new equation in maths or physics, whatever it was that was kind of at the heart of that lesson. Trying to remember those kind of key concepts, really important facts, names, dates, and history, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be exhaustive. It doesn't need to be a regurgitation of the whole lesson, just, the main things. Maybe allow sort of 10 minutes or so just to kind of get down as much as you can at A level for those subjects. And then going back to your notes, checking whether you've got anything wrong and making sure you learn from those mistakes. And just that act of, 5-10 minutes a day, reflecting on what you've done, has a massive impact, not only on the memory of what you've learned from all that, but it also is incredibly helpful for actually focus in the lesson. So often when I sort of introduce students to this idea, it's really hard at first, and they find it really hard work at first. But give them a week, give them a couple of weeks, and they start to get into this frame, because at the end of the day, they know they'll be accountable to themselves for writing down this stuff from the lessons. That kind of switches them into a higher gear in the lessons themselves, to be like focusing and trying to engage and trying to extract those things that they will later need to write down at the end of the day. It's magic.
I have that. What you could say, I think my career would be so much further ahead. I think, especially in your early 20s, and you're getting through stuff. Like even at sixth form, actually, I did quite well, not that well. And I reckon if I had more discipline, and I'm not blaming the fact that I didn't know, because I kind of knew that you had to write something down, but didn't really have the sort of, how do you say, this is key. This is key. If other people are doing it, you'll do it too.
Yeah.
On your own, you don't do it. Okay. Now, a good example of that. I'm just looking around to see if I've got any. Okay. This is the trick that I've been doing in the last few months. So since Christmas, I've decided I'm going to learn some magic.
Okay? Great.
And learning magic, card magic. Okay. It's not actually that difficult. What it is you've got to remember stages. It is excellent at teaching you to be what do you call active learning, because you literally have to actively recall it, otherwise ain't no magic, because it's in the it's in the sleight of hand, it's in the you've got to do the sequencing to get it right. So like so much of revision is understanding the sequence of orders, and and not forgetting an order. Then when it came to the next lesson or trick that you're learning, the next one, you learn the last one, and you can still remember the last one. There's so many things that repeated in the next one that it's like, I got that because I had that one last time. So it just like suddenly it's like whoosh. And now I cannot believe it that I can recall this. If you said to me 2 months ago that I could do this, I'd be like, nah, I can recall 10 card tricks. 10. Nice. And that is something that has blown my mind, because I've had the YouTube videos to repeat. I've had the daily 10 minutes, like have a go, like, and then like you get around it. You're like, yes. It's been amazing. Thanks to Will's active learning, but what you called it was what you're doing. And I tell you what, to illustrate active recall, magic tricks, simple ones. I mean, there are some really simple ones, but you still need to learn them. And they are a really good way of illustrating the value of active learning. Because you've got to be able to recall them. When you see a pack of cards, you're like, hey, you've got to get a pack of cards. A week later, you get a pick of cards. Can you do it? Well, the proof is in the trick, because you're showing someone else. You can't kid the kidder. You can't kid your audience of the magic. You can't remember it. So the test, do you see? It's excellent. Highly recommend. Learn a magic trick. Prove active recall. Fantastic. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
nice.
I thought I could do it. I never thought. I mean, I still can't do it very well, but 10. I could probably do 8 and 2 badly, but like I will get to 10 easy because it's so now ingrained, and it shows you can teach old dogs new tricks. You can do it.
Well, I look forward to a demonstration maybe at the end of this.
Yeah, well, yeah. I could easily do it. No, I don't know. A bit embarrassing. Let's see. No, my point is you don't need. It's a myth. Old dogs, new tricks. Complete myth. If I can learn magic, anyone can learn anything. I proved it. Well, sort of proving it because I'm trying to get these. But I will save the blushes from. I will save the blushes. Hold on. Sorry. Can I just call you back? Hello? Yeah, can I just call you back? Sorry. Thank you. Okay, no worries. I get it. We'll change it. Okay, I'll call you back. Bye-bye.
Was that someone calling about the card trick?
Oh yeah, card trick. Sorry, I've got so busy exams. Anyway, this thing, active recall, show your that's what I would do. Show your students active recall using card tricks, and then because card tricks are really fun. Okay, because you what you're doing is you're teaching astonishment. Okay, yeah, and active recall, you need to be able to count cards, but the learning of counting the cards, you've got to learn to do it, and recognize cards. So you kind of you see a clip of it, you got it, and then the order of the process in which you do it. So it's just like learning maths, literally, just like learning maths.
Yeah.
So it's the same skill of learning magic is learning is being taught maths, and I would really recommend. I really recommend teaching using some of the. I'll send you some simple, really easy ones. We get them to do it over and over again, and the next day do it again. Next day, but third day, you're like, oh, I got this. I can do. We call it any. You could do it anywhere because magic. People think it's something magical. Well, it's not. Nor is anything else. So recommend it. Anyway, so that's really I thought I'd add that to your repertoire of gone.
I like that. And it's interesting you mentioned astonishment. Like sometimes, particularly when, students of all ages, that includes adults, who may have been out of school for a long time, these stories that we tell ourselves, like, I don't have a very good memory, or, I can't learn new things, or whatever it is.
Not true. It's not true.
Not true at all. Not true at all. I always say add the word yet. So, I can't learn anything new yet, but I'm about to teach you. So shut up. And you'll be fine. And, the first time, even though just that kind of, memory journaling exercise I was describing, where you kind of just reflect back on the things that you learned that were new that day. The number of students I've talked to that would say, "Oh, I'd never be able to do, never be able to do that. No, I don't have a good memory. I no way." Yeah. And you do, and you might not be able to remember everything from the lesson, but that's not the point. You can remember some stuff, and often once you go through that process, and you're amazed at what's actually in your memory, and you learn to start to trust your memory, and you kind of build that confidence that actually this memory you've got is more powerful than you think, and it can take you further than you think.
Yeah, totally. And I hope that we can train. That's it, Will. We can probably stop there, and we stop there. It's not